Pablo Picasso paints pictures, Ernest Hemingway writes books, and John Digweed mixes compilation albums. November 18th, 2023, John Digweed's Futuro was released on Bedrock Records, marking 25 years of Bedrock. In this review, Super Progressive will unbox the vinyl and CDs, hear from some of the producers behind the tracks, and share our review of the compilation album. All right, so we both have had these packages now for like a week, waiting to unbox them. And now, here, I'll put mine in the air too. And now, David, we get to open them and see what's inside. Let's do it.
Check that out. Look at that. We got the hoodie.
Wait, how'd you, oh, you bought the hoodie. That's awesome.
Yeah. We got the Futuro hoodie.
Looking good, bro.
Yeah, it's much not as cold now.
All right, so I got the vinyl out. Oh, what do you have? What do you have there?
Yeah, so I also got I've also got the T-shirt here. I think we're pretty much the same. Get the Futuro T-shirt.
So sick.
Yeah.
Nice, bro.
Cool. Love the way these are packaged, by the way.
Yeah, they're so good.
Look at that. 752. Number 752.
Nice.
Yeah,
I think I'm number 585.
And then the CD, I've got 485. Look at that.
Sick.
We're both 85.
Yeah, I have 540. We must have placed our orders pretty similarly timed. Okay, which one do you want to start with? Start with the vinyl.
All right. Yeah, let's start with the vinyl. So I'll just open mine carefully too. This will take me a sec. I usually just take a razor blade and carefully go across the opening, just like that. Which might be a little crazy, but I like to keep the shrink wrap. But yeah, if you're careful enough, then you can pretty much just open it. See, just like that.
Oh, nice.
Without taking the plastic.
Oh, that's how you do it. All right, let's check out what's inside. Holy shit, this is sick.
Oh wow, are there 5 vinyl in here?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
5 vinyl. Pretty sick. Everyone talked about the smell of the fresh vinyl.
Oh yeah. Oh, look at that. And it's got the
Kind of smells like cardboard to me.
The other sides are pretty cool. Here, look at the they actually got the hole there so you can see the label, which is nice.
Oh yeah.
And I like the
such
colors.
Such class, obviously.
Really nice packaging. It says right here, compiled and unmixed at the top on the vinyls, or the records, I should say. And then we got the catalog number here, Bed, FUTLP, and then it's got vinyl 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Dude, look at this.
Nice and shiny.
I feel like John. So yeah, there's 5 vinyl with 2 sides. Look at each one has a different color. It's really sick. All right, should we move on to the CD?
Yeah, let's do that. It looks like it reminds me of the gold record that they sent on the Voyager spacecraft in the 70s.
Wow, that does look crazy, bro.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the most gold record I've ever seen.
Sick. Look at this.
Oh, that's super cool. That's oh wow. This is I haven't seen something like this.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's just it's like a translucent piece of plastic.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's really cool. All right, and then let's see for disc 2.
How do you access disc 2?
Yeah, it's you gotta kind of the whole center piece. Well, actually, oh, I see. It's one of these. See, well, it comes out from the center, so you go like that.
Dude, I never would have figured that out in 1,000 years.
But this one's cool. This one's got like a
This one's blue.
got like a blue steel kind of look to it. Look at that.
Yeah.
I feel like Sub-Zero. It really does have a like a futuristic vibe with these,
Yeah, definitely.
with these color schemes.
Dude, also just like, dude, it looks beautiful. Come on. This gold one?
The gold one's amazing. It's got the CD credits in the center inlay there. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's awesome packaging. So many people take the packaging in different ways. John and Bedrock did a great job with this one.
Basically, the track has been made in my new studio. Yeah, we were talking just before, but I moved from Paris to Nantes in France, and I did this track, I guess, in the very first track I did in the new studio, and I was working on this one with the idea of what would be a dope track to close a set. You know, that was the main purpose, and it wasn't did for the Bedrock release initially. It was just a track I had in my mind, and when I sent it to John, it was like, okay, then I want this track for a project I got, and that's the story behind the track.
I used to live in Islands for 6 years, and I'm very nostalgic. And every year in November, I have this kind of depression feeling, and I needed a sunny thing, you know. So this is how I started making this track, just to bring some sun in my studio, you know. That's the story.
The point is, because I started this track because I love cats, and we used to have 2 cats, and one of them died, and I made this just after she passed. So that's what it was. It was like, I love you and I miss you to my cat.
It was from Stranger Things, but I was trying to think. I think I needed a name for it's one of the synths reminded me, but at the same time, I don't think it was even associated, like the show inspired it, but I think I was watching it, or I was thinking of cool names, like cool places of like a town, and I saw the town. I remember Hawkins. Like, oh, that's a really cool name. And then I think Christoph also has a track named Hawkins, and I told him, I was like, yo, I didn't copy you. I totally forgot you have this track, but. And he's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. But yeah, it's a sick name. It's a cool town. It's a cool name. So I just was like, I didn't think it fit for another track. And this proggy, like uplifting, floating melody, it seemed right. Even though Hawkins is like dark and all this evil stuff happens to it, but.
Yeah, so the long story short is Matt and I have known each other for a while, and we have kind of different sounds and different tastes, but we've been friends, you know. I'll see him at shows and stuff, and we're always super friendly. And then I think it was towards the tail end of the pandemic, we were both living in LA at the time, and we're like, you want to just like hang out or whatever, go to the studio, see what happens. And then we were kind of discussing, normally when I'm working with someone new, we spend the first bit of time kind of show and tell our influences and what we're feeling and stuff, and we both figured out that we both love the 90s into early 2000s progressive stuff from Sasha and Digweed and stuff like that, but like he had never really ventured down that route, but his sound design is so insane. So we went in with kind of no real plan of what we're going to do. We were just jamming out on synths and making noises and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden it turned into something that was like giving a nod to the past, like of that era of music. And we just felt like it was a fun play on words. Obviously, like Spun Day, they were like when Sasha and John were playing back then, we were like, let's make something like, you know, that would sort of fit that era. And then I ended up sending it to John, who I've had a relationship with for a couple years now, because he was playing out when I launched my label. He started playing out all my tracks. which is, well, that's another story. That's also a crazy situation, but yeah, I sent it over to John and he loved it. He started playing it in all his sets. Like I went to a couple of his shows and he played it at the show, which is crazy. And then he's like, yeah, I want to put this on the album. You know, I definitely would have been playing this out at Twilo back in the day. Like it fits the sound perfect. You know, I was like, wow, this is really a dream come true for us. So that's kind of how it was. Just a jam session that we were sort of thinking like, what is the modern sound equivalent of what was being played back then, is sort of our mindset with that track.
Usamos ambos, tanto hardware como software, o sea, es tanto uno como otro.
Sí, utilizamos sobre todo, Carlos toca el bajo, y de software and hardware, sobre todo software, bueno, tuvimos un teclado analógico, que no me acuerdo ahora mismo del nombre porque eran de los estudios que utilizamos allí, súper antiguo, ¿ok? Pero lo que más utilizamos es tocar el bajo con Carlos y luego Cubase sobre todo y analog. Analog, Ableton.
Sí, allí en el estudio estuvimos trabajando principalmente con Ableton, lógicamente, y bueno, también nosotros usamos Cubase, Reason, Propellerhead Reason. Bueno, la verdad que ha habido una mezcla de diferentes plugins, tanto los que usamos nosotros como los que usan ellas. Entonces ha sido, por eso no sé cuántos o qué decirte de lo que hemos usado. No lo tengo ahora mismo fresco.
A good thing is that I'm in the studio right now, so yeah, I can show you directly live. I did the main melody with this one. It's a modular synth called Kilpatrick Femal. The main melody has been made with this one. And for the rhythm part of the track, sorry, I take my phone at the same time. The TR-8S was the main drum machine, but also the electron just here. And to finish, some different stuff like FX. I love to use my Aurora case with the black old ESP2 from Erika Synth for the FX parts. And, you know, a lot of other stuff like an OB6 VST plugin I used on the pad for this track. And in my memory, that's the main thing.
I think the strings are made with. I always try to find natural strings, you know, not a VST which reproduces strings. So the one which makes sense for me to do this, and the piano and all this stuff, all the organic instruments is contacts. And the banks of contact, and I think this one is session strings number 2, I think. And after it's the way you play them, it's you have to play chords instead of playing just one note, because one note sounds a little bit simple, you know. And so when you enter playing the notes with chords and all this stuff, the sound becomes richer, and this is how you get this kind of result. So it's contact native instruments, and I think session strings number 2.
We pretty much have like a very small studio, so we don't, you know. Some people have like a really large studio where everything is connected all the time and they have like all these vintage synths and all that stuff. We don't. So we kind of pull out a few pieces of hardware gear that we want to use for a track, and then I have to put it back, and then because we only have room for this much.
Yeah, this is a small room. You can't really get an impression. I don't really want to move the camera around, but it's probably about I don't know how many square feet this is. Like
it's small.
It's small. So we have racks of stuff in shelves at the side, which you can't see now, and it's basically taking out 1 or 2 pieces of gear at you know.
Yeah.
And then we think we commit to that. Okay, we're going to use that, and then
for a period of time. We make some tracks with this gear, and then we make some tracks with this gear.
I wish I could remember what we used for that
this one.
particular track. Did we use the
Analog Rhythm from a
Rhythm.
Swedish company called Electron is heavily in. That's like the drums and a lot of the sounds in this track.
Yeah.
Because that was what we wanted to do that month.
And the vocals are.
The vocals are samples from YouTube. When you go to YouTube and ask how do you say I love you and I miss you, then that will come up. So we sample it from there.
Yes.
We'll be adjusted for that now.
That's right. No, we just searched how to pronounce I love you in English, and then someone says it in like a sort of semi-robotic voice. So that was basically the sample.
I believe all the synths are Diva. I'm on this Serum train right now that I've been on for like a year, but I used to use a lot of Diva. It has a really rich sound to it. Just going through some presets and that insane little floating lead. I can't even remember what it's called, but I don't know. I can't tell you like where the melody came from, but it just kind of just happened. I was just playing around, and I had this. The original idea came from I heard this Chami track, and he used this vocal, and I ended up finding the vocal that he sampled, and then I sampled it, and that's how that phone home or come home. I don't know what it says, but that's where Chami was the inspiration for that. But in terms of the actual production of Diva, I went through a bunch of different kicks because I really couldn't find them sitting right, but eventually used it like a much deeper kick than I usually do. Shout out to Nammer for the kicks. He's a wicked producer too. But I don't know. I did something different in this track by layering this melody, like a couple Diva melodies to make it sound like one synth that develops, but it's actually like three underneath each other that create that lead that it morphs into. If you listen closely, it's like this whole other like more plucked sound comes out. But it was all done on Logic, all in the box. There's a lot of Diva and a Chami inspired vocal sample.
Yeah, it was in Matt's studio in LA. He has like he has all these synths and pedals, and we were just, honestly, the way I like to work and the way we worked on this track is creating utter chaos, just like turning the brain off and just starting to make noises and just having way too much recordings and stuff. And then later you can kind of go in and find the golden nuggets within these hours of recording. So that's kind of how we made the track. It's like my strength is going in and kind of looking at the chaos and figuring out exactly what we need in the chaos. So that's sort of, he was creating the chaos. I mean, we did it together, but like he's more doing some of the crazy stuff than I go in and I'm like this, then put it all together kind of thing. The fascinating one about this track, it was all audio. There was no MIDI, I mean, obviously there was some processing I did on the computer, but it was almost all just recordings of random guitar pedals, random, a lot of MS-20, Korg MS-20, and then a few other synths that he had, I don't even remember. I don't think neither of us could recreate it if we wanted to, which I think for me, I'm proud of that track because like I don't really know what we did. He doesn't really know what we did, but like for me, those are the tracks that I'm artistically most proud of because no one can sit there and just like play the thing on the MIDI and put in a preset. Like there was no presets involved in that whole track. It was just audio, just hours of audio recordings, honestly. So it was all audio. There was no VST synths or plugins or anything.
At one point, I had like 4 tracks ready, and I really felt they could fit with Bedrock, so I sent them to Scott, who sent them to John Digweed. And first, they were supposed to be on an EP, which was released 2 months ago on Bedrock, the Red Alert EP. And this track was supposed to be a part of this EP, but in the end, they get back to me like maybe it could be nice to take this track for another project, and I was very happy with this idea because this track didn't really fit with the other track on the EP, and it really made sense to release it somewhere else, and this compilation really made sense this way.
The first time we got released on Bedrock, I think, was that a remix on another mix CD that he did?
Yeah.
Years and years ago.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry to bust in there, but that's correct. That was it was one of the Digweed, the massive mix series he did from, I think, Miami.
Yeah.
Miami. It's like a triple CD thing. It was a remix by a friend of ours called Tadia Seta. He did a remix of a track we did for Connoisseur Recordings called "Love Is Over" from our debut album, Accretion, and that it was featured on Miami, and then after that it was I think maybe we got featured on another one. I think Montreal as well.
Yeah.
No, I think maybe it was Montreal. Sorry, I should remember these things, but it's either Montreal or Miami or both. And then you were contacted by a guy called Dibby Doherty.
Yeah.
That is in a band called Island Hill, and they released an album. Yeah, and they released like a full-length album on Bedrock, and they contacted us, and we did a collaboration track called "Leaving" on the Island Hill album, and that was our first, proper.
That was the first time we were not a remix.
Yeah, So that was like So that was like a proper track that we did like for Bedrock, and after that we had contacts with Scott Dawson, the guy who manages the label or does some A&R work for them at least, or the label manager, I think he is. Once we've got someone's email, we just send them stuff.
Yeah.
So we're like, yeah, all right, yeah, right, Scott. We got some tracks for you, and then we had three tracks at the time, and two of them were released just before Futuro on an EP called Sliver. So that was two tracks there, and then the last one was included on Futuro.
I think it's worth mentioning also because John has been playing a lot of our tracks that we've been releasing on other stuff for quite a long time, and he also invited us to do a transitions mix.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so he kind of knew.
Sick.
I think he kind of knew a little bit of what we were doing through that.
Yeah.
And then when we were talking with Scott, I said, wouldn't it be cool to don't you think he want like a track from us to release on Bedrock, because he's been playing so many of our tracks, and then that kind of spiraled into him signing some tracks.
Yeah.
Nosotros tenemos muy buena una amistad grande con Mariano Mellino, y aprovechamos la ocasión que tuvimos cuando estuvimos en nuestro primer tour en Argentina, en Buenos Aires. Aprovechamos la ocasión para trabajar tanto con Mariano Mellino y Folgar en temas, en hacer un proyecto conjunto, y ese tema estuvimos 3 días en un estudio, en estudios en Árbol, en Argentina, en Buenos Aires, y salió Tarantula. Entonces enviamos a John y le gustó la idea.
I had Scott's email from, I don't know where I got it, someone gave it to me. And then I've been kind of just sending him tracks throughout the last couple years, but nothing stuck. I end up putting, either on my own, or I do some stuff. I think it was maybe a bit too hard for Bedrock, because obviously I have all my drum code stuff. But I sent him some tracks that I just have made. I sent him a bunch of tracks that I just had made. A couple I made in COVID, a couple I made that summer, a couple I made the year before, and I got this email one day that I think I sent 6 tracks, and I got this email from Scott saying, "Hey, John really loves these 3. Like, are you up for an EP?" And this this at Hawkins to be part of this like super special compilation we have at the end of the year, and I was like, yeah, that's sick. So all my Bedrock dreams just kind of came together all at once. He signed an EP and a single in one email, but it was so interesting because I made the tracks. Mar I made in Portugal. Mar means sea in Portuguese, and Come Home I made one time when I was in Berlin. I had like a nightmare and I woke up and I wrote the track like sitting on the end of my bed in like 3.5 hours, from like 7 to like 11, and I remember it so distinctly. And then it was just done. I kind of fixed the drums a bit, but like it was crazy because some of these tracks were old. Like I'm not like a few years old, and I had to like go back into the projects and redo I remixed them. I got some of the levels better. I didn't have half the plugins I was using to process, so I kind of like remixed them, and it was so cool that he just heard them and how they feel. Because I sent him like a bit more of I sent him stuff. I didn't send him like any techno. It was like really only electronica stuff and like breakbeats and like these proggy tracks that I had. And it's just so cool that I made them, years apart. But now that they're on the same EP, they just fit. They just seem to fit so nicely. And Hawkins just kind of came about out of nowhere. It had a bunch of versions, but this version that came out, I decided to like abandon my idea of having this techno track with a fun melody and just go pure prog, like indie dance, and have a deeper kick and an actual bass line. So it was actually a bit of a battle, but where it's sitting now, I'm happy with. And I'm just so grateful that he just hit me back after sending emails throughout the years. That there's just this one super email where he was just like, I want this for an EP and I want this for this mega compilation. And I was like, yo, great, done. I've loved Digweed forever, it was a dream come true. It was insane. So yeah, that's how that happened. Really cool.
Sí, es maravilloso, es bonito para nosotros estar dentro de tantos artistas, dentro de este sello tan grande, tan potente, con tantos años, como has dicho, 25 años, y es un orgullo formar parte de esta compilación, por supuesto, siempre.
Sí, sobre todo nosotros somos seguidores de John Digweed desde hace cuando éramos teenagers. Imagínate lo que es para nosotros estar trabajando con John.
Es un sueño, es un sueño.
The special thing is when I discovered that it was a special release for the 25 years, I think, of Bedrock or something like this. And the artist on the project, when I said yes, I didn't know who was supposed to be on board, but I discovered it with the release, actually. So weeks after saying yes. And yes, I was even more happy because when you have the chance to release on this kind of labels, you have the chance to enter. I think the long-term relationship with Bedrock, it's the same for everyone, and it's good to be a part of a family for me. I have this thing with Systematic Recordings, and Macrombo, I have this thing in France with Astropolis label. And so I try to stay in touch for long relationships with the people I'm working with, instead of trying to find new labels and everything. So yes, being a part of this compilation made sense for me, because it showed me that they have the same relation with me that I think I have with them, they trust me.
Obviously, we are super stoked to be a part of it, and super surprised because, as you say, it's 25 years of Bedrock. I mean, they don't pick just anyone. And the thing is, when you sit and make music like we do in a little basement and you send it out, and we have no idea if our tracks are big or not big or who plays them. And so, super surprised and super happy about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't really say anything more than that. I think.
No, it's so professional, and you know we actually just got the record today.
Yeah.
I literally, I mean, we were in the studio like quarter of an hour ago, and I came on the door like Santa's here, and then I got it's like five album still sealed with the CD. It's signed by John and numbered, and it's just amazing. And we even got a T-shirt in there, so that was superb. And it's just something. It's absolutely superb. But it's been so. Like the communication has been so efficient and smooth, and it's really I mean, I used to work in the record industry myself, and I know how much work it is to put together a compilation. I actually used to do compilations, and so this is it's fantastic. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, the craziest part, which we touched on earlier, is like when I launched my label. First off, I've looked up to John for so many years. I've been to so many of his sets. I don't even. Probably like 15 to 20, I would say. I've been to so many of his shows, and he was always this legendary, like I was always on the dance floor. I never knew him, but he would just blow me away over and over and over and over. It's like I don't go out so much when I'm touring really hard, but like if John's playing, I'll make every effort to go see what he's up to. And I've always kind of been like that through the years. Then when I launched my label in 2021, my label's called Divine. He played out the first release, and then I was like, this is insane. I saw videos of that, and then I think I got his email via my manager, and then we started emailing. Then I met him backstage at a show, and we kind of hit it off, and then we swapped phone numbers, and then the next week I was like getting a call from him. I'm like, honestly, I was like sweating. I was like, oh my God, like John's calling me, like, wow, this is insane. Then we talked on the phone for a while, and then we started to become friends. And then we start swapping music. He'll send me a bunch of unreleased Bedrock stuff. I'll send him a bunch of stuff I'm working on, stuff like that. So I think in that sense, he's doing that with the artists who he really likes to play. So it's like that's his sort of way of curating this little group of artists. Like this wasn't like a random cold call, like, oh, I'm going to release on Bedrock now and send it to John. Like this has been a relationship that's developed for a couple of years to get to this point of, and I know that he's doing that with the other artists too, because he's what blows me away is his like ear of like his kind of A&Ring skills. Like where the original track of Spunday we sent him, he had notes for us, and every time we would do his notes, the track would improve again and again. And he was giving me the notes while he was playing it at the show. Like he'd play it, then he'd come up to me like in the booth and be like, okay, like now take that sound and make that happen like at 2 minutes. And then maybe I would cut off like a minute at the end, and I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I'm getting live feedback from John right now. This is crazy. But that's what he does with the people on this compilation, or the Bedrock artists. That's the long answer. But like, I do think there's such a stamp of quality of like the more kind of crazy underground progressive and techno and stuff like that. The stuff that John plays, it is like quite a tightly knit thing, because he's extremely hard to please with music, you know what I mean?
And it's with a sound that that I'm not really known for. So it's compounded with the fact that it was like a special track for me. Like my friend who had heard an earlier version was like, before it didn't sound like a Weska track. Like I heard the stuff you were like, it was cool, but it was like you were trying to do something else. And then this final version, it's like now it sounds like a Weska track, but it's like Weska doing a different sound. So to be able to do that on such a legendary compilation with all these insane artists, that it's like this footprint of like a 25-year label span. Yeah, it's a lot. It's emotional. It's crazy. I'm very, very grateful, and I've looked up to like a lot of the artists on the compilation too. Like it's crazy. It's truly surreal. Yeah, it's really cool. That's also a testament to John too, that he's the most versatile. You never know who he's gonna play. You can see him at a festival, you can see him at a club. Like he has this insanely diverse taste. So I think it just truly speaks to the comp, just really speaks to the whole vibe of the label. You have breaks, you have prog, you have stuff with strings, you have stuff that's a little chunkier and repetitive, and more like softer techno, but then you have, it's just this, it's truly a compilation. It's like a genre comp, you know? And that just speaks to how, impactful John is just on like all of electronic music.
Well, one of the main reasons is because, of course, it's 25 years since the label started. So it seemed appropriate to revisit the first track that came out on Bedrock, which was Heaven Sent. But of course, the thing is, we have had, you know, like a load of remixes done over the years because it's, you know, one of the biggest tracks on the label. And, you know, so we've represented it a few different times to give us something to play out, to give John something to play. And so we didn't want to just do just another remix. So John thought he'd try and get some versions together which would tie in with the story of the album. So that's why we did the kind of more ambient treatment at the front of the album with Futuro Sense. And then there's a reprise of that at the end of the album to kind of bookend it. So just to give it a little bit of the story. So start at the beginning and then go all the way through and like an epilogue with the track coming back in again. That was the idea of it, Will. Captain Moustache, he had a track out on the label already previously. And I think that worked really well. And John, I think also that what he liked about Captain Moustache is where he was coming from. It has a little bit of an old school flavour what he does. You know what I mean? Slightly sort of cheeky disco-y side to it. Not too, you know, it's a little bit lighter than a lot of the progressive stuff, and you know, just kind of there's an element of fun in what he does. And I think John thought that would be really cool thing for us to try and you know, jump in on, and a slightly different style. And also if you're you know, if you're referencing like a kind of more disco-y sound, that gives you like a little bit of a palette to work with and changes the color of what you're doing a little bit. So he suggested it. He said he said that he thought that Captain Moustache would be up for a collaboration. So as usual, I mean, you know, we do collaborations. It's something we enjoy, and it kind of gives another facet to a release if you're collabing with somebody. And so what we always do is that I just put together some really basic elements like a skeleton, you know, just a few elements, and send them over to whoever we're collabing with, Captain Moustache in this case, and see what we get back. It's really cool. It's exciting because you never know, you know. It's like I'll just sort of sit in front of the computer and do an afternoon's work on some ideas, and then bundle them up and send them to John, and he'll, you know, if he's happy with what I've done, then he'll send it on to the collaborator, and that's what we did. And now what happens then is that he'll have the stems of what we did and just play around with them a little bit and see what happens, and then send it back to us. We'll do a tweak and then send it back to him. But this one was it worked really well because it was obvious the direction that it was going to take, and he came up with some really cool ideas. I remember John saying that I had the track kind of just moving through, and he said, I think you should do some kind of big percussion fills, like tom-tom fills or timbali, you know, that clangy percussion type sound. I think his idea was just to, you know, give it a bit of dynamic and break it up a bit. And so I did that, and Johnny said, yeah, that's okay. But we sent it to Captain Moustache, and he said, yeah, I like that, but I really like the laser toms, he said. And, that ba-doo-doo Simmonsy type drum kit sound. And we both thought, yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. And so I had a great time, actually, enjoyed myself putting some laser toms together and to give it that little bit of a signature, sort of place it at a point in time and give it another flavour. And so the laser toms came and stayed, and that's a typical example of how it works. I'll put something out, John will make a note on it, a suggestion, then I'll do something, then we'll send it to the collaborator and they come back with their own idea about it, and then it all just drops into place. Well, look, I got to say, it doesn't happen by accident. John works like a dog, He's got an amazing work ethic, and he's got really good vision, foresight, about what he's doing. So it's like what you don't see is the amount of hours that get put into a project like that. And, John sort of makes very sure that everything is right, before he lets it go. That's his thing, man. And so it's brilliant the way that the thing gets received and the goodwill that Bedrock has got. But certain people have made very certain that that's the way that they want it to turn out. I mean, that's another thing. John knows what he's doing in the first place as far as music. He knows what he likes. He knows what the Bedrock project he wants it to sound like. So, he's just so definite about it that it's like I say, it kind of he makes sure that it's right, and that's the quality control. That's where that comes in. So, but we're just delighted that people. It means something to people. That's the point. It seems to mean something to people, and as an artist, you can't really get any better validation than that. You know what I mean? The fact that people come up to you and say that it's affected them in a positive way, that's the goal. So it's a wonderful thing, and I feel very lucky to be involved with the project.
All right, Will. So we've listened to the mix. We've talked to some of the artists whose tracks are included. What are some of your big takeaways from what they were telling us?
So, first of all, so awesome to hear from the artists. I'm so stoked on it, and I can't express how thankful I am that they took their time to speak with us and give us those in-depth insights to how this whole Futuro project came to be. But for me, and I'm sure it's going to be something different for you, but for me, it's the fact that every single artist we spoke to has a pre-existing relationship with Bedrock. Because you think of the DJ as this selector, this DJ that brings these different tracks together. And for one reason or another, I kind of imagine John just going through thousands of tracks and picking which ones sound cool and are his favorite. But there's such a deeper level to it. It's almost like this mix is a showcase of the Bedrock family in some way. Every single artist had a pre-existing relationship with Bedrock, and something that may seem like a random assortment of tracks, a random compilation of tracks that just flow well together, is actually quite intentional. Not so much in, obviously you want it to intend to sound good, but it's an intention. The word showcase comes to mind. It's a true showcase of the Bedrock sound, not just things that sound like Bedrock, but it's a showcase of the artists who were all involved in the 25 years of Bedrock. And that's the other thing that like Nick Muir really shed a light on, is that this compilation is a celebration of 25 years of Bedrock. And it's just amazing. And the last thing I'll say is, again, kind of echoing what Nick said, but we have the privilege as music lovers, as clubbers, as Bedrock fanatics, to just assume that anything that John touches, anything that Bedrock puts out, we assume it's going to be good. But that assumption is on the back of what we just discovered, which is an intense work ethic and an intense attention to detail, both on John and Bedrock's part, but also on the artists that they work with. And that's the reason why, for me, now I understand why Futuro is not just a mix of the week or a mix of the month, but a mix that's going to be around for years and years, and that I'm personally, and I think you will too, will be revisiting years from now, because
absolutely
the amount of work that goes into it, and that's what allows something like this to be a timeless contribution to this whole scene that we love so much. So that was my big takeaway, David. What about you?
I guess before we get into mine, just going off of what you said, like with the Bedrock family and how it was very deliberate how the tracks all came together, or how they were selected by John. One thing in the interviews that really stood out to me was how Madben, with his track, that ending track, he didn't even know that it was going to be basically the closing track of the mix. And I just thought that was crazy how he and John, well, the way he put it was that John understood what he was going for and positioned it that way on the mix. That to me was incredible. And it just goes to show, like you said, how the history of their relationship, was able to result in that sort of synergy between the artist and DJ.
Yeah, they're like on the same page.
Exactly. And then another takeaway I had was on the production technique. So all the artists we talked to had totally different approaches for how they went about creating these tracks on this mix. So I thought it was super interesting. So, for example, Madben with his modular gear, which is something that, I find that stuff totally impressive. It's almost like you need a PhD to use some of that stuff. But and then same with his external effects gear. I thought it was super cool how he used that. And then to contrast that with like Weska, who was talking about the multiple Diba instances, with Diba being one of the best soft synths out there, or at least one of my favorites. So that was super cool. And he said he did everything in the box, which just goes to show you don't need a bunch of external gear. Like, you can really do anything today with just a computer and a DAW. So that was really cool. And I thought it was awesome too how of Norway, they were saying how they're literally limited by their physical space that they have. So you might have a ton of gear at your disposal, but if you don't have the space to use it, then you kind of like pick the one you're gonna use and really just kind of work it to death. And so I'd say they definitely accomplished that on this mix. And then this was super cool. Oniris talking about the string samples and how he uses contact to get that super realistic sound. So I thought that was super cool. And of course, it was really cool hearing from Nick and learning about how he collaborated with Captain Mustache and John. So obviously Nick and John have worked together for many years. But kind of to your point earlier about how Bedrock is a family and how these relationships have been kind of longer standing. So it was cool to hear just how confident he and Nick and John were in working with Captain Mustache. He was saying, these guys are pros and you kind of know what to expect from them. So, that little insight about how Captain Mustache was really kind of focused on those laser toms, which is like one of my favorite aspects of that, of the Cobalt track as well. So just really cool to hear how everyone worked together on that and how you have different ways of working with the available technology, either in the box, out of the box, or even on the, way out of the box with the modular stuff. I think it's all really cool.
Yeah, definitely, man. And now it's just out there for us to enjoy over and over and over again. We have it in physical format. I'm going to put the links to all digital related things, whether it be the Bandcamp or just wherever you can listen to these mixes. I'll put those links in the descriptions for anybody who's watching this and may have not heard Futuro yet. Everything you'll need is in the descriptions. I'll put all the links there. I'll even also link to the social media channels of everyone that we spoke with. So, because that's, okay, and speaking with the artists, that's another really cool part of just doing this specific review with you, David, is that, bro, we have so much new music to dive into. Not new in terms of release date, but we just learned so much about these awesome artists. And now we kind of know them. And now we get to dive into their discographies. And it's just going down the rabbit hole. And that's another amazing thing about these compilation albums is it's just such an offering that if you love this music, there's more in this compilation than just the tracks included. It's absolutely the exposure to all of these artists, whether you've known them for a while or whether they're, for at least in my instance, most of them, this is through this compilation, this is how I'm hearing them for the first time. And now I have transition mixes to listen to from these guys. I have their tracks and I have, upcoming gigs to look forward to. Like when I see these guys coming to town, I'm going to the gig now where I wouldn't have known that association beforehand. So it's just like life in Clubland is just better because of this project for me, at least. So yeah, bro, David, this was a lot of work on our end. So thank you for joining me with this. Thanks for putting in all the hours. And I'm really, really stoked to be sharing this with everyone. And I'm really grateful for John, Bedrock, everybody involved in the project, all the producers, for all, we heard it over and over, but the attention to detail and the hard work that went into this. The end result of that is that thousands of people like us around the world just get to enjoy this now. So super nice, super thankful. Thank you everyone for watching. And I hope you guys found this insightful and more than just a review of two kids blabbering about how much they love the latest John Digweed mix, because there's so much more to the story. So thank you everyone.